I always freeze. I want to say, hello, Energy Arts family. How are you? I kind of screwed that up, but I got to practice. I got to practice.
It's been a very long day. Usually we don't make them this late in the day, and I just don't know where the days are going. Does it seem like time is speeding up and changing to you guys? Is this what it's like as we start to walk into the fourth density?
We have some really strange things going on these days. We have weather occurrences that people have never seen before, and certain areas are so cold. And we have a lot of people rising up and wanting their sovereignty. So we have a lot of this interesting energy going on.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty crazy. And we see this little darling out there. The trucks are coming to save us. And of course, we've been talking about the Freedom Convoy, you know, just because I don't want to get any sort of strikes and all. I won't play it, but you got to watch it and just listen to it. Because what this is a blockade. As we know, there's blockades set up. Well, the trucks just go right around the entire blockade. You can't really see it too good. But they just make their way all around the side, and everybody is clapping and cheering them on. As you see, Canadian farmers break through the RCMP barricades set up in Alberta to help support the border blockade. Things are changing. Things are changing. We did get the message from the GFed, from the guides, that the powers that be are a little nervous because the response of people has been a little bit more than anticipated.
Right. There's a lot going on when it comes to that. They are, when I say they, I'm going to label them the elites just so we all know who we're talking about. They are quite concerned right now, and they are calling in their upper management, and that upper management is then calling in another upper management, and they're actually telling me they're going to be relying on quite a bit of AI in the very near future. A lot of it, a lot more than I think anybody was ready for.
You gotta, well, maybe you don't, because there's all different levels of understanding the bigger picture. So many people think that when we say the powers that be, we're talking about the people we see every day. People like I could say number 46. Let's just say JB. People like Trudeau, Macron, even the WEC, the UN, all these different organizations, all the different leaderships, these families that have been in politics forever, the Clintons and the Bushes, et cetera, et cetera. But what we're talking about is they're talking to much higher up on the food chain. And so we could go into, obviously, those with money and power behind the scenes, and many people will start reeling out the names of some of these families, like the Red Shields, the Rockefellers, et cetera, et cetera. Go even into the POPE or the Black POPE, the secret societies, but we're talking about they're going higher than that. So they're actually going and looking for help off planet, so to speak. Now, obviously, for some people, they'll be like, oh, the first time they listen to this channel, they're like, oh, these guys are out there. But no, it's always been the case. We have not been free on this planet. Humanity has not been free for thousands of years. The only time we're free is when we're outside of the Kali Yuga, which thankfully is most of the time. And we are heading outside of that as we look at some of the Amish who recognize, we were just talking about the Amish, Cindy and I, and saying how they know that this system that we're in is evil, that it's really a system of anti what Christ really is, because this system's based on greed and just everything that's kind of so ego driven, really. And just look at the leadership of the world. They might express themselves as bleeding hearts, but the reality is they're not bleeding for any average person. They're all about bettering themselves. It was interesting. There was an article coming out of Fine Dining Wear newspaper that was actually criticizing who we were talking about for her trades and her dealings with stocks and all. Nancy P. criticizing her of taking advantage, as an unfair practice because of insider information. This is coming from the fine diningware countries newspapers. Wow, Babylon the Great, oh my, how she has fallen.
Oh, she sure has. She sure has.
And this is what many more people are waking up to. The coming food shortages are going to be far worse than what we are being told, because it's been every angle you look at, from the weather, supply chain, people not being able to work. There was a cheesy movie that popped up, I think on Amazon or something. But again, every movie, it seems like, whether you're looking at Amazon Prime or Netflix or anything, it's always about, pandemics, end of the world, zombie apocalypses, collapse of civilization as we know it. It's the only topic, it seems, lately. It's just kind of crazy. We looked at a historical piece the other night, which felt like a nice change. But of course, I was looking at from the standpoint of, here we are, perhaps days or weeks away from WW #3 starting, and this was all about just the days and weeks ahead before #2 started, and the build-up and the scrambling and the politics and the lying, and of course that's all that ever goes on. But this is pretty obvious, and we went to the store today. I wasn't really going to go to the store, but when we went to the store, might as well just see if there's anything that you should stock up on. And I think people are getting used to seeing a lot of open shelves that just don't get refilled.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's just sort of becoming one of those things, that frog in boiling water scenario, where things are just happening so slow, yet noticeable, but not enough to really shock you. And they've done a very good job about rolling this out. And that's why we're always saying, hey, we know things don't look dire at this very moment, but please be prepared.
And here you have a farming insider talking about the dramatically increased cost of fertilizer. It's going to make it impossible for farmers to profitably plant corn this year. How much corn is non-GMO? It's just such a small percentage. It's so sad that the normal is something that shouldn't be normal, but this is what we have on this planet. And input costs for things like fertilizer, liquid nitrogen, seeds, triple and quadruple the old prices. It's just this perfectly orchestrated storm. And people were curious, back in the day when we started to talk about frankenfoods and the Monsanto, and the fact that they have these Terminator seeds that won't grow anything, the next year you can't seed save. I think the picture becomes clearer and clearer for many, even though they just don't want to really see it. And I think that's part of the problem. There's people that have bought into the system to the extent where they can't admit now that maybe they were not viewing things from a correct perspective, unfortunately.
Right. A lot of these things that we've been told aren't exactly as they seem, but we're all kind of walking through this together, unfolding the scenario, at least the truth of the scenario, one page at a time. But we're all learning this together, and all along we've been telling ourselves and each other and our friends and our family, whoever will listen, please just be prepared.
Absolutely. And besides physical, that also means spiritual. Yes. You got to root and ground yourself all the time. I was listening to a channeled message that Cindy had gotten for me, and the guides were telling me, spend time in meditation, Qigong. These things are going to grow your light body, develop your kundalini, and they will help you to go to the fifth density when the time comes. Everything that they are trying to do is about stopping you from ascending. That's everything is about stopping you from ascending. Because again, they look at humanity as a herd, and they're in this pen that's called planet Earth. Unfortunately, in this time period, being in the Kali Yuga, this is how it is. But when we get to a certain point and we go past where they can work and operate, it's like the entire planet has the gates wide open, And anybody is free to go anywhere, pretty much, as long as your light body is developed. And again, that's all about getting your chakras open, initiating Kundalini, awakening the pineal gland, building a Merkaba. That's the important stuff. And I understand most people out there won't get it. It's just because they're concerned all about the physical aspect of things, but we are so much more than just a physical body. That's the part that we have to come to understand, and the only way you can know it is if you experience it, and then you know it as in the term gnosis, which is an experiential form of knowing. You know because you've experienced it. And I shared with you when my brother died when I was 5 years old, I had an out of body, and it was I think my higher self or my guides were helping me. Something was giving me this because I felt grief and confused and I was scared. And it let me know, because I was all of a sudden in back of myself and above myself, looking down my body, and it just came to me. I'm not the body. And it's always been that way for me ever since. The knowing that we're not the body. We're operating in this body, but we're not the body. We go on.
Absolutely. And when somebody's just commented, you say absolutely too much. And I do. I'm sorry, guys. I'll work on that. But when it comes to our light body and building that and growing that, this is where our meditation comes in. This is when our mantras come in. And these are all things that help grow this light body. And when our light body is very physically fit, that makes it so we're not necessarily trapped in any dimensional anything. We can get out.
Absolutely.
He's adorable.
I was just going to say she's adorable when she says absolutely. She's absolutely adorable. Uh-oh, there's one that unsubscribed.
Sorry, kids.
Oh, well. Wah, wah, wah. So we have Turkey digging out of the snow. Get this temperature in Cuba, 37 degrees in Cuba. 37 degrees around Havana, Cuba. That's chilly. But we do know when we do go into an ice age, the whole Everglades will freeze over. Do you know how little area is going to be really growable? But, thankfully the guides haven't said that's happening in the next 20 years, but we are going to get really wide extremes as we have been. And, there is now, as we've been talking about the amount of artificially flavored, weather events, we could say the we could talk about the CHEMs and all that. But the guides have said that, again, about 40% of what you see is really because of tech. 60% is happening natural, and a lot of the natural is just simply augmented. But it does feel like more natural things are starting to come online now. This is what we're getting. This is what we're sensing, like some of the increases in the bigger earth changes are starting to roll in.
Right. And as we're sitting here doing this video, it's like I can feel the channeling welling up inside of me. And it's this thing where you just have to let it release. But I have to be in a more calmer situation to allow that happen. So we're definitely going to do some channeling tonight and see really what's going on, because everything just feels it's right on that cusp. And we always say how it's a marathon, but that marathon, it might be time that something is really going to come of it.
Absolutely. As we look at Istanbul all covered in snow, it's just wild as we see Cuba's record chills. Man, it's hard to think of it ever being really cold down that way. And we have a new lightning world record set in the U.S. And that's showing how far it went. 477 miles. A single lightning strike over the Gulf Coast, April 2020. It's been certified as the world's longest on record. That's long. As you can see, basically going from just north of Corpus Christi all the way over past Biloxi, Mobile. Wow. But that's what we got. And we also got a huge 2,000-mile long new monster winter storm. It's going to be called Landon. Coming. It's going to affect close to 100 million Americans from Texas to Maine. And we'll be watching this closely as you know, Texas got that big hit last year. Now, that was in February. Here we are in February again. And, the guides did say we probably would see repeats of the event. And again, there is most definitely a lot of artificial flavoring going on. Ice can be extremely deadly. So this is going to be a very, well, approach it cautiously and don't travel if you don't have to. As I said, Cindy, thankfully we don't have to travel. So, we're just going to stay put. And I'll have all the links for you guys too. Also, a high-impact weather event, red warning for heavy rain issued for Westland and Bulleris in New Zealand as well. It's just been wild extremes going on across the planet. And we just get so used to seeing these things that we kind of get almost desensitized to it, where you see 21 lives lost at least. And this is after floods and landslides in Sao Paulo, Brazil. We have seen so many cities and main streets deep under floodwaters. Over in Haiti, Dominican Republic, 6 inches of rain, 24 hours. Thousands of people displaced here as well. And, this is an area where life can be tough in paradise. And it is a beautiful paradise, but at the same time, so much poverty. And this is just disgusting. All aquatic life destroyed. Samsung's Austin plant spilled up to 760,000 gallons of acidic discharge into a tributary, killing everything in that tributary. This is not going to heal the mother, per se. And, this system is so obviously anti-Earth. It's anti-Earth. And to quote Tool, Mom's going to fix it all soon. Don't you worry.
Yes, and there's that one when they talk about learn to swim. I forgot who sang that.
Tool, that's the same song. Yeah. Yeah, see you soon in Arizona Bay. Yes. Exactly, but will it be natural or will it be enhanced is the question. And we have a pipeline rupturing after a rock slide. Indigenous people facing another environmental disaster in Ecuador. Ecuador, as you're going to see, I think we talked about that this morning at Costa Rica. It's so disgusting what we're seeing going on this planet. But what's happening is people are getting disgusted to the point of, they're mad as hell and they're not going to take it anymore.
That's right. And that's kind of where we needed to be. And I've been wanting to look at this situation that we've all been walking through together as more of a healing experience. This is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to regain our sovereignty. So we should be happy about that aspect of things.
Absolutely. So now there's a lot of buzz. There was a tape that I got. Another person sent me a copy of. Hi, Sandra. Of President Ford, and I had seen it before, where he was saying exactly, how a woman's going to become president. And it would be that the person would be elected as the VP, and then the president would die in office, and then they would become president. And he said, I guarantee you that's the way it pans out. The way he said that was like he knew the script, right? I mean, and then we could go back to 1871, Albert Pike, and we could talk about a lot of other things. But what the buzz is now is, will number 2 become the new Supreme Court appointee? Because her polling numbers are in the boudoir, and so are JB's. Their polling numbers are horrible. And they always want to bring a certain HRC back from the dead. Doesn't matter if it's clone number 66 or clone number 666. They want to just put her back out there. She's back.
I know. What was that movie? Going to somebody's for vacation. What's his name? Who is that?
The Bernie one where they're bringing around the corpse all the time?
Yeah, that one.
Weekend at Bernie's. Oh, my gosh. Yes. Oh, gosh. But you can't make this stuff up. Don't you love this? Dementedness is a theme of the Biden-Harris administration. You really think that we saw the greatest voter turnout of all time with what we got. They say the Brooklyn Bridge could be had for a dime still.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is apparently pretty serious chatter, because obviously, JB, he doesn't know if he's coming or going. He doesn't know if he's got his dependables on or not. I mean, he doesn't know. Sometimes he gets vehemently angry. Sometimes he gets confused and goes the wrong way when everybody in the Secret Service is telling him, go left, go left. He wanders off to the right. Your other left. Your other left. Yeah, so he's up there in age. Seems to be lacking a lot mentally. So, the talk is HRC comes back as VP, and then either, he apparently exits the world, or, he's not fit to continue, and there you go. Who will HRC make her number 2? Maybe it'll be NP. NP, Nancy P, maybe. Oh, gosh. Boy, that's a duo.
Yeah. That is. So, I'm sensing something very prophetic happening. I don't know, because like Mike said, this is already in the script. This is written somewhere.
Everything's in the script. Everything. The return of 45 is in the script. You'll see. I mean, this is what the guides told us. They told us this before the election. They said it's going to look like he's gone, but he's not. And it was interesting because you get people that don't listen to you, and they listen to you once, and then they just make assumptions. But when you make an assumption, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, And so we understand that anybody you see politically has got strings attached. Every single one does. We'd be naive not to think so.
We sure would, yeah.
There can be lesser of two evils. That is, definitely something, but you got to look close. And we certainly don't have anybody on the political landscape that shows the heart of, say, like a Yeshua, a Buddha, of an Anandamayi, of, so many of these different beings that really understand compassion, love, caring for one another, the oneness behind everything. If we looked into a totally different direction, then maybe we could actually have something that worked.
You're right. I'm just trying not to say absolutely sometimes.
So Putin says the West failed to satisfy Russia's 3 key demands on security guarantees. So is this still the clock ticking? Tick, 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 tick. And you could look historically again at Europe, and Europe is constantly changing. I used to, for fun, look at old maps, and my mom had a bunch of them. She was kind of a little historian. And all you'll see is that it's constantly one tribe, one group conquering over another. And this is around the globe, too. But Europe especially has had so many different things. But when you look back, you go back to, I think, around the 890s. And it was really when what's called the Kievan Rus came to power. And this is where the people of the Rus actually merged with the people that were around the area of Kiev. Again, this is Ukraine and what became Ukraine and Russia, where they actually became one people. And that actually goes back to like the 890s. But you could see, it ebbs and flows. Things change all the time. Now, of course, in the United States, it was just natives, or, we don't really know if they were truly natives. They could have been leftovers from Lemuria and Atlantis and other civilizations that repopulated the Americas. Yet, at the same time, there was really no Europeans en masse in the Americas back in that time. But yeah, you could say way back in 890, there was a unification between the people that occupied the Ukraine and the people that were to become the country of Russia. And, where did the Rus come from? Well, again, there's these Slavic peoples, and then you have the Norsemen, mostly from Sweden, heading towards what became Russia, coming in. And so, it's just one migration after another. This is the way the world's always been. It's constant migration of peoples. When we get into these time periods where there's real starvation, real hard times, people migrate. Where there's wars, people migrate. There's constant migration. And there's constant warfare, which, again, it takes looking past the tribalism that we're locked up in. Just recognizing something different. Like, we're all cells in the body. This is a new way to perceive things, but this is the way they understood in time periods when we weren't in Kali Yugas. They understood, hey, it's much better if we work together. Again, this is where Darwinian evolution goes wrong and says it's competition of the fittest. Because everything is based on that in our society. It's all based on competing, becoming number one, instead of trying to pull up the weakest links so that we could all work together and all benefit and all basically benefit each other and the planet.
Yeah, and that's so beautiful when we can help each other instead of having us look at our downfalls. Look at somebody's weakness, and instead of drilling into that, help them, help them become stronger. And all we get from there is to build one another up, 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 and up. And we get nothing but strength and goodness out of that when we see one another and say, hey, let me help you with this. Or, hey, well, let's go over there and try that. Or I have this idea. This is what I did when this went wrong. And just really, really looking into our hearts and working with each other and not tearing each other down for little differences.
Absolutely. When we recognize that we're all a cell in the planet, and it's just the same thing with our own bodies, because, we are, again, a universe to those things that are living inside our body, which, they outnumber ourselves 10 to 1, more than 10 to 1. So, it's just a matter of recognizing a different way of thinking. I mean, do you think the heart is going to invade the lung space? Oh, it's time for us to be bigger and more powerful. So the heart's going to go take over the lungs. No, they work in a symbiotic way. Same thing with the liver and the spleen. And everything works towards a unity. This is the type of consciousness that we need, a consciousness of understanding the oneness of all things. And we have a fire at North Carolina Fertilizer plant forces thousands to evacuate amid fears of an explosion. And Cindy got that the guides were showing her perhaps some fire from the sky with this. And this is an ammonium nitrate fertilizer plant. Hello. Boom, boom.
Right. I got a couple different things from this. I got stuff from the sky, and then immediately after that, they're showing me some coming again from the ground. And it seems like this is some sort of a technology that's been put into place for a very long time. I know it's definitely not new, because when they show me these things, they give me that feeling of ancient times.
And ancient technologies.
Yes.
So, yeah, again, when we look to the leadership of this world, truly they're bottom feeders. And the people that they're reporting to, the beings they're reporting to, are bottom feeders. All they know is competition and strife and greed and ego. And we have a very bright fireball over Morocco and also over West India and Pakistan as well. So many of these just look like ships going into hyperdrive.
Yes, they sure do. We really got to take those things into consideration these days.
And 49-year-old Democratic Senator Ben Ray Lujan suffered a stroke. So this could complicate that whole Supreme Court plan thing. We'll have to see what happens. And if he is unable to continue, then the governor, basically, of New Mexico will appoint a new person in his place. And I know everybody has a question about something. Did he or did he not? My guess is he did. If you guys figure out, there's so much. I mean, I just saw like another dozen people that we could quote, but I think it's getting pretty obvious now. And watch out if you're walking down there in Florida, you might have an iguana fall on your head. Aww. So yeah, National Weather Service warning iguanas may drop from trees with the cold snap. And, they just kind of lie there for a while, but they're not necessarily dead. They will wake up when they thaw out. This does happen, but when we see the freezing, again, I was thinking right off the bat, the citrus crops. And low temperatures quite rare in Florida, but at first glance, the citrus, strawberry, and tomato winter crops suffered no major damage, thankfully. That's the last thing we would need.
I know, that's another thing. So let's keep sending out our prayers and our intentions that, things stay good for those who are trying to do good for themselves, that be met with another positive reinforcement to help.
And we want to thank everybody again for your support on Patreon. We couldn't do it without you guys. Do check out evolutionaryenergyarts.com if you need to make an appointment. It's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com or EEARTS@protonmail.com. And as always, do check out Medicinal Foods. Really good products, help with detoxing, boosting the immune system in these times. Extremely important. And use the coupon code EEA. It does support the channel. There's a link at the top of every video. And as always, guys, much love, God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.